Ultimate Bunny is now in a position where she's debatably the best mobbing descendant in the game. Now, I personally think that if you use movement correctly on her, she is the best mobbing descendant in the game. So let me show you the build that I use to absolutely delete everything. I'll give you one variation of this build with Slayer set, and then one variation without, and I'll let you guys decide what you like more, and I'm going to be giving you all the in-depth runs, tests, and everything between the two variations of the build. So, without further ado guys, let's get right on into today's video. So let's have a look at this bunny build. So starting off, we are using electric condense. This is going to be used to nuke all of the elites or just absolutely rip their health apart. Now for our actual damage modules, we've got electric amplification, singular amplification, spear and shield, skill simplification, electric master, and then dangerous ambush. These are all going to combine to give you disgustingly high levels of damage, and this is going to work absolutely amazingly. Now for our range, we've got expansion and we've got amplification control, and then for HP we've got HP amp, and then finishing off with some cooldown we got the MP conversion to make the spidering possible with the mid-air maneuvering. So this is going to be the bunny build that you are going to want to use. Next up, let's talk about the reactor and external components. Now for the reactor, I have gone with the hand cannon mounting. This is because I like to use this build with dual peacemakers. Now if you use different weapons, please do just get the correct mounting. That is basically it. For the two stats in the middle, you are going to want electric and singular. For the two stats on the bottom, I would recommend singular and electric for the most damage. I would recommend singular and cooldown for second highest damage, and then I would recommend singular duration up for the third highest damage. Cooldown and duration up would work, but that would be a little bit too little damage in my opinion, so you're gonna want to go with one of the first three I suggested. Now for the external components, you're gonna be using a 2-piece of enlightened mage set and 2 pieces of plague set for this bunny build specifically. Now for the top stat, you're gonna want max HP and MP recovery out of combat, and then fire resistance would also be kind of nice. Then you want max MP recovery in combat, and then chill resistance would be kind of nice. If you want for your third stat, you're going to need the MP recovery modifier. Defense / electric resistance would be kind of nice. And then for your bottom stat, max shield / shield recovery modifier or toxic resistance would be kind of nice. Now this is also going to apply to the second set. I'm going to show you in one moment. Now for my weapons, I did mention that I use the Peacemaker. Now for the Peacemaker, I use these as stat sticks. This one has 60% sprint speed on it, so this is going to keep me running at speed cap the entire time. Now this one is only got 1 sprint core on it, and then 2 grapple cores allowing me to spider the entire time. For my actual DPS weapon, I am using the Malevolent, so the Malevolent is going to be my weapon of choice. Now over here, this is the build that I am using, and the elements can be interchanged. I have removed all the elemental modules right now, so if you want to put fire, toxic, or electricity on your Malevolent, just replace them with the electric counterparts or the other elemental counterparts for the modules I had there in the first place. For example, replacing chill circulation with toxic circulation, so on and so forth. Now if you don't have the battle pass, then I would recommend the Smithereens as your boss deleting weapon. Now this is the cores that I have in it. You could replace the grapples with accuracy or sprint speed, but that is just personal preference. I left grapple cores on there because I did used to use this as a spider weapon. However, I wouldn't really recommend a shotgun as a spider weapon because it is very clunky and is overall one of the slower weapons. This is the build that I do use on the Smithereens, and let me explain what I mean by it's a slower weapon. If we have a quick look at the base movement speed with this weapon, you will see that the movement speed is 533 versus the Peacemaker with 672. Now when we are dealing with maximum sprint cap, so with the sprint weapon, max sprint cap over here, you are 100% going to need to increase your movement speed, because once you're at the max sprint speed, movement speed is the only way to get yourself faster. Examples of this would be using brisk walk on a secret garden or a python, so that is another weapon you could use on bunny, but my personal preference is the Peacemaker because even them weapons, despite their buff, is still not faster than the Peacemaker. But this is just my personal opinion and my own take. If you prefer secret garden, please do use that. Next up for the Arche tuning tree. Now this is the tree that I use. However, there is a lot of variation to this tree to be had. So this is what I would recommend using if you want to use my exact setup. However, there is another thing that you can do. So let me quickly show you that. Now all these nodes from here, 9 nodes that I've just removed, they can be completely replaced and put elsewhere. If you would like, you could put them up here and give yourself some extra cooldown. You could also go down here, give yourself some extra HP. That is what I would recommend most. Or if you want to give yourself extra survivability, something around here. However, I personally do prefer the enhanced movement speed, and with this movement speed, this is the big tree to going to sprint cap versus not. If you saw before, you'd see that this peacemaker was already at 1300, now it's at 1280. Once we put these two on, it's going to be back up over to 1300. So that is what I would recommend using for the peacemaker. That is specifically why I use the sprint speed on it. Now that's option 1 for the build completely concluded. Let me show you the short small differences for option 2, and don't worry, I will provide gameplay for both sides of this. Now option 2 on this build does not really change very much. The only thing that you are going to change is put the external components to the Slayer set. Now to counter the Slayer set's heavily increased skill cost, you are going to replace Spear and Shield with MP Collector. So this is basically the second variation of this build. The damage will be little to the exact same damage. Slayer set still does not hit harder with this build. If you do manage to hit harder, it can happen, but the damage is basically the same, and the other build just doesn't require you to have to run MP Collector, which is my own personal preference. So let me go on into the gameplay, and I will give you gameplay of both sets, and I will mark on screen which one is which, and then I will give you an overall conclusion. So let's get on into it. So let's start off with some dungeons. Now this is a 400%, this is the unknown lab. In this gameplay right now, I am going to be using Spear and Shield, so the option 1, along with the 2 pieces of Mage set and 2 pieces of the Plague set. Right off the bat, you can see we're not having any issues, no mobs standing our way. Our damage can go to about 3 to 400,000, which is essentially fine. The main thing is that when you're running solo, even there we hit a nice 700,000, you're not going to one-shot a mob any faster, so it gets to a point where adding extra damage kind of just becomes redundant. But you can see here, even with this run, even though I got blocked by some barriers and stuff, we are still absolutely flying through everything. Now I'm going to just show you a little bit more of this and then speed it up and then show you the result at the end of the run. This is just so that it doesn't take too long, because I know this video is going to become on the longer side, but we're still going to go with that. You can see over here, this would be an example of where I would use the spider grapple. Now with the spider grapple, as long as you flick with the melee, you won't really lose any momentum. Now for the rest of the mission, you can just see me speeding through with Bunny. Same story, I'm just speeding it up instead of cutting anything out. Just going through the dungeon, easy as it gets. Now for the actual boss fight, the boss fight is really not that much harder either. Just make sure to electro condense the boss, then delete the boss with the malevolent. Make sure to delete the mobs around the boss, and then again delete the boss with the malevolent. Now let me just show you what happens when I final phase the boss over here, delete him with condense, and boom. With the 2 pieces of Plague and Mage and Spear and Shield, we got 2 minutes and 30 seconds and 405 million damage. Now let me switch on over to the run where I am using the Slayer set, as you can see over here, and I am also using MP Collector, just because I did say at a point it basically becomes redundant, and let me show you that this build is past that point. So even here, right off the bat, we are still running, not an issue. Our speedrunning stats are still the exact same. We are hitting that nice 700k again, even on the Slayer set. In terms of damage differentiation, you can really not notice any damage. It's if you run the MP Collector with Slayer, which is the correct way to run it. If you are running Slayer set, let me just say this for you one more time, make sure to run MP Collector, because that will combat the Slayer's downside. If you are not running MP Collector, if you're not running the Slayer set, then you definitely do not need MP Collector. Now with this, you can see here we're basically covering at the exact same speed, and even here grappling, despite me having MP, does not make any more of a difference. The build and the run is basically the same anyways, and the results are not showing any different regardless. Now you can see here, I'm still going to speed this up one more time, just so that you can see that these builds are literally identical. So let's just go with this, hurry up and do this, do. There you go. Now we're in the boss fight. Same story with the boss fight. You can literally put these 2 gameplays side by side, and I promise you wouldn't be able to tell which set is which. much if it wasn't for the MP collector. But here you go, we finished up with the Slayer set, and what was our time in this run? It was 2 minutes and 31 seconds and 416 million damage. So for 10 million extra damage, it's basically the same thing, and there's very little, if not nothing, that changes between these builds when running in dungeons. Next up, let's quickly have a look at some special ops gameplay. Now, I'll just show you the first 2 waves on each set in this run, so let me just get on into it. Now, you can see immediately off the bat, with the Plague set and the Enlightened Mage set and Spear and Shield, we're hitting 700,000 damage to 800,000 damage consistently all around the block. Then, by the time the second wave spawns in, you can see that our damage has said, nah, I'd win, and gone over to the 1 million marker. So, you know, when you are fighting the Order of Truth, specifically with this build, you're going to be doing plenty of damage. This is, of course, an elemental thing because these mobs are significantly weaker to electricity than normal mobs, but even still, the 1 million damage is the 1 million damage. So now let me just quickly speed the gameplay up because I completely forgot what I was doing when I was streaming this. So I accidentally did ready up and decide to do 2 whole extra waves. So now you get to have the luxury of me doing the two entire extra waves, so you know, have fun with this gameplay. However, the only reason I'm deliberately not cutting any of this out, because I know you're probably scratching your head, is to prove that this is exactly this set, because I did 2 more waves and then I aborted the mission, so you can have a look that I was actually indeed using the set that I'm saying. So even across here you can see that I'm still getting 800 700Ks everywhere, which is still more than enough. Like I said, at one point you begin to stop one-shotting any faster. Right, now you can see with the abort being done that I ended up getting a ton of damage, and for my external components it's the 2 pieces of Mage and 2 pieces of Plague, and Spear and Shield is on my build. Now let's have a look at the Slayer set along with MP Collector. So the Slayer set with the MP Collector does the following as well. Let's just quickly spawn in and then let the mission start, and then let's have a look at the first 2 waves. So in these first 2 waves over here, we are going to let the mob spawn in. Then as soon as you see that they have spawned in, we are going straight in with Bunny, and you can see here we are still getting around about the same. It's about the 500 to 700 to 800,000 damage marker, which is essentially the same thing. Now if you're not running MP Collector with this, then it's basically going to be irrelevant, because your skill cost is just, it's a pain to deal with without MP Collector. So make sure you are using Collector with this build. Now you can see here, this is still doing very impressive damage, but it's just for whatever reason not hitting that 1 million like the other set does. Now I'm sure if you gave it enough time it would probably proc the 1 million, but there's no point in waiting. Now of course, let's run some Sigma Sector 2. For Sigma Sector, I'm only going to show some gameplay of just the Mage set, because I've proven now already that the Mage set and the Slayer set are essentially the same of the two pieces, so there's no point in me including any extra gameplay to make this video any extra longer. So with this, you can see here we're still absolutely ripping all the mobs apart in Sigma, 1 to 2 shotting the elites anyways, because I didn't let it charge, but even still, flying through Sigma is what you want to do. Now this phase in Sigma again is also quite efficient with Bunny just jumping over to the Malevolent and then just absolutely deleting everything. But let me skip on over to the boss fight, or towards the end of the boss fight, so you can see what Bunny is like towards the end of Sigma in terms of damage. So now we are at the end of the run. I'm just mowing down the final elite boss, or the final boss, with the Malevolent. Now with Bunny, it's no surprise, this thing absolutely destroys, electric condense him for the win, and you can see my damage at the end of this run now. Now at the end of this run, in a Sigma Sector run in public, my Bunny did 376 million damage in 2.5 minutes, so there you go. That's everything you need to know. She rips apart dungeons, the builds are the same, she rips apart bosses, everything. This is like the most complete Bunny. Now I'm just gonna run some public gameplay of myself in Forgotten's over here, but this has basically been this video, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, please do smash that like button. Please do take your time and invest into these Bunny builds, or one of the 2 builds, because they're basically the same. But yeah, that's basically been this video, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, please do smash that like button, and if you're new here, please do consider subscribing. I make plenty of videos on the first Descendant, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace!